Esther.
Hi, Romina.
And hello, fellow overthinkers. This is Still Having Fun podcast, and we're so excited to host you for the next hour to talk about political, social, cultural topics with a dash
Or handful
of pop culture.
So basically everything.
And anything we want to talk about.
Keep in mind that the opinions we share are based on our personal and limited experiences. We will also put a timestamp of the topics we discuss in case a subject is ever triggering.
So thank you so much for being with us, wherever you are in the world. We hope that you enjoyed this episode.
Hi.
Hello, and welcome back.
Yes, welcome back. We're recording this week once again on the traditional lands of Haudenosaunee and Mohawk peoples here in very cold Montreal.
Very, very cold Montreal.
Yeah, it's been freezing, but we're still having a good time.
Yeah, and we're here to have fun.
And speaking of, I don't know if it qualifies as a good time, but I remember that we did not wish anyone a Happy New Year in our first episode back. So sorry about that.
That's so true. And I mean, we know that you most probably didn't have a good year if we haven't, wish you to have a good year.
Very true.
So it's very important. We apologize for that. And
it won't happen again.
It won't, no. So here it goes.
Oh, are we doing it?
I don't know.
Are we doing a countdown?
Should we?
We suck at countdowns, but we'll go for it.
Yeah, why not?
3,
2, 1.
Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Oh my gosh. It felt so anticlimactic, but I feel like the holiday itself, and I don't know if you like it or not, Romina, but personally, I hate New Year's.
Why?
I just feel like it makes me very unhappy. And I know that's a very dark note to start on, but I just feel like I feel like everything around it, the fact that we watch, a ball drop in the sky and that we count down and that we're all excited and we have an expensive beverage like a champagne or whatever.
Right.
It's supposed to feel so grand, but I feel like once that countdown is done, nothing feels different. And that makes me feel worse because of like all the anticipation I feel like. And also, I find it so awkward, the wishes that we have to wish each other.
Yeah.
It's a must. They make my skin crawl. Yeah, and it's like you're hugging someone, and it's almost like they're waiting for you to wish them whatever you're supposed to.
Right, yeah. Well,
is that something in Peru that happens? Like that people, like how is it similar to the Western idea of a Happy New Year?
Well, as I said before, Peru is very Americanized in a way, or they want to recreate kind of, the American way or whatever. So in that same idea, and I don't know if it's like that, for every country or what, but there's this whole, like you said, like grand event. And as you said, it, most of it, no, maybe not most of it, but you see the champagne, you see everyone hugging, and all of that, it happens at 0 on the countdown. But then we have few habits in Peru or even in other countries that are quite, I would say, specific. Like, for example, for New Year's, it was only my boyfriend, my dog, and I for New Year's. It was a very small celebration.
In Montreal, right?
In Montreal, because we had the curfew. So there was a lot of things, that we couldn't do due to the pandemic. And I know that not all countries have continued the curfew and stuff like that. But here in Montreal, specifically in Quebec, the province, that's what happened. So anyways, it felt quite different. For the first time, I was, in my small bubble, in my home, with PJs almost, with my dog. Well, I never had a dog, so it's my first year too. But I still wanted to have this, special occasion. And so what we did is that lentils in Peru represents like money. So we had a big plate and we have a lot of lentils, not cooked, so dry lentils. And we put all of the cash we had on us. So, if we had any bills or anything, it was like full of lentils and money. So the idea is to attract more money for the new year to come. Something else that we do in Peru, and we recreated in our own way here in Montreal, is that after the countdown, you take your baggages. Let's say if you want to travel on the next year, you take your baggages and you run around your house with empty baggages. So that's a thing.
That's so funny.
I remember when I was young, and me and all my cousins, my family, everyone had like an empty baggage, and we were all running.
So cute. In the house? Like,
no, outside.
Do you do it outside? Oh, okay.
Yeah, outside. So that's why for this year, because of the curfew and so on, we just put the baggages outside of the house for like few minutes after the countdown. So it wasn't the same thing. Then there is the resins. I don't know if you know about that.
Resin? No.
No? Grapes? No?
Oh, grapes. Yeah.
I don't know if it's American or...
No, I don't know the tradition.
You don't know?
No.
Okay, you know the fruit.
I know the fruit. I've met the fruit once or twice.
You tasted the fruit. So what happens is that after once you are in the new year, you have 12 grapes. So everyone has 12 grapes, and you have to think about what are your wishes, your 12 wishes for the 12 months to come. So we just sat down, my boyfriend and I, and we're like, okay, in January, we want to travel. Let's go. In February, we want to have this job. In March, we want to that. And you go over all the months with 12 wishes. So that was our special thing.
Do you know why a grape?
Is
it the fruit of hope?
Probably. I don't know.
That's so cute. Like, even the ones that you said were done in Montreal, I've never heard of them. The luggage one. Is that something that you've seen done in Canada as well?
I don't know. I don't think so. When I talked with my friends, they didn't know. So I don't know if it's a Latin thing or what. But what I said is that we readapted it to Montreal because it's so cold. It's not the same as in Peru. Over there is the summer, here's the winter. So
Yeah.
Oh, and
so going outside makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's one more that I almost forgot. Is I don't know if it's the most important or what, but something that we do, and we did again this last New Year's, is that someone needs to give you, and it's a gift, very important, to give you a new underwear. Okay. So, and it has to be new, of course. I mean, so someone goes to the store and buys you a gift. So what I did is that I bought one for my mom, I bought one for my boyfriend, and he bought one for me. And the color is extremely important. So if you want to have love in 2022, you buy red underwear. If you want to have money in 2022, you buy for someone, right? So you buy a green underwear. If you want to have a chance in 2022, you buy yellow. So it's chance as in luck. If you want to be lucky in 2022, whatever that means. So we had green underwears, and for my mom, I gave her a red one because we all need a little bit of love. So that was a lot of traditions that we wanted.
Well, that makes it like cool though. Like, I mean,
to have missions.
Like the ones that I told you, those like really are the only extent of like what we do, right?
Celebration, yeah.
And so it was still nice to be with my family, but like there's still like the wishes and the countdown and stuff. But like those are really cool, and I feel like it's funny because, well, like, do you know why it's an underwear that you would gift?
I don't know. No, a lot of them, like, it doesn't make really sense. I don't know what it means or what, but I've been doing it for every year, really. Before COVID, I used to go like, not parties, but you just like, gatherings with friends and, there's people around me.
Mm-hmm.
And still I would have, in my pockets, lentils. I would have my little bag of grapes, like whatever. I don't care if people would judge me or what. That was my thing. I would wear my underwear and my mom or someone would like give it to me because they know how important. And it's a small thing.
So sweet.
But who knows?
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Maybe if I try that next year, I'll be a bit more optimistic about the holiday.
Yeah, but why do you think it's because you said that you don't feel like there's any change, but is that like the only thing that kind of like not bothers you, but that you feel it's unnatural or maybe a little bit awkward, or what is it?
Well, no, I think it's also the fact that it happens so close to Christmas.
Okay.
And so for me, being a huge Christmas fan, I just feel like it's like a loser version of Christmas, because it feels very much like, even for me and my family, like we'll gather in the same way that we gathered for Christmas, right? But it's New Year's. And so, I think it's really the anticipation, but also just the social anxiety of having to come up with really kind, not that it's hard to be kind, but like just these really well thought out wishes. And so you're trying to be original, but like, it's, I mean, I like the idea of starting over and I like the idea of a new year and setting goals, but it's just like that, the event itself on the night of the 31st, sometimes I'm like,
Right. Yeah, that was my next question for you is it that you feel like not awkward again, like I don't have the right word, but is it because it's the ending of something or is it because it's the beginning of something? But I think I got my answer, as in it is because it's the wannabe Christmas after Christmas. So
and I think it's just truly comes down to that, like the one night itself, especially like the countdown and then the wishes. But like as a concept, I get it, and like there's a lot of aspects of it that I'm like, like I understand why people would like this and why I myself like some aspects of it, but just the night of, I don't know, sometimes it just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, well, maybe, and if I can just add a small little thing about that, maybe it goes also to the, let's start with the right food. And, like people, they start diets on Mondays or stuff like that. You don't need to believe it, or you don't need to start a diet on Monday to like make it work. As long as you're consistent, as long as you believe it, as long as you put effort and you work on it, you will have a good year. And whatever it means, like having a good year, does it mean that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the 365 days per year you will be happy? Because that will be very unrealistic. Is it because they're talking about the majority of the time? So anyways, I think it's open for interpretation.
But it's interesting what you say, because I think it's also the collectiveness of the thing that sparks that hope in people. Because like when it was the first year of the pandemic in 2020, we were all sort of like, we all thought it was a really fun staycation at home. Let's share recipes, cook together, learn how to knit, all that stuff. And so I feel like New Year's as like the whole month of January almost is that, and I think that's the part where some people still think like, it's like as if you're going to change that much. But I do think that even people, for myself, that are like, you still sort of buy into it, and you're still sort of motivated by the idea that everyone is sort of starting over or likes to think so anyways, right? And it's that collectiveness that you see online, that you see people setting the goals that are maybe not similar to yours, but still in that same hope of wanting to start a new habit or a new whatever, so
lifestyle or whatever. Definitely. Apparently, this is just a fun fact I like to share with you, but apparently we have periods of 4 years and it's transformative. So you don't change, because today is December 31st and now we're January 1st.
Yeah.
Like the classic joke of, oh, see you next year and we'll see you, like the next day.
Gosh, yeah.
It's just like the basic joke, like
my mom made it this year and I was like so embarrassed. Like, thank God she made it at home, but I was like, please no, don't.
Oh my God, I'm the worst. I loved like dad jokes, and
I'm not even surprised.
Yeah, no, that's my kind. I'm guilty for that one. I'm like, hey, I didn't see you since last year, and like I just saw you like an hour before.
My gosh.
That's my humor.
Romina.
But apparently we don't change, one day to another. I mean, we could just implementing a new habit and being consistent, as I said before, is, transformative, but we have like periods of 4 years. And it makes sense with everything, like when you go to school, like, maybe not high school, or maybe even high school. When you start high school, you're not the same person as when you finish it. Yeah. And in that same idea, then the CEGEP, it's another like person. And then you go to university and your life changes every 4 years. And the same goes with allergies. So you can develop or stop any allergy. Like your body changes so much that even allergies changes every 4 years. So that's like the real change. So who knows?
Interesting. Yeah. And I wonder like if that starts at the same time. Well, I guess so. I mean, do we all start at 0 and then?
I guess so.
So, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. I want to know, because we talked about this in the last episode, that we were going to be recording an episode with Les Podcasts Impromptus, which translates to the improvised podcast. And this is a French podcast that is really, as the name would have it, very improvised. They do choose topics or themes, but it's like very much in a question format, and like they're very open to where it takes them, and we quite enjoyed that format. And I wanted to ask you how it was recording in French. Did you find it super different than in English? Is it something that you loved? How did you feel about it, and about the podcast in general, the episode that we did?
Yeah, well, thank you for giving me the space to like talk about this experience. It was certainly different to, have a conversation not only in another language, but also with 2 other, people that we didn't know. So I think like the whole format was very different. So I don't think I could have like a really a feedback about only the language, because it was only one element in, so many other elements. Okay. But certainly I think that I'm more comfortable in French. As I said before, I'm more francophone than English. But it doesn't mean that I like it more in French or English. I mean, if anything, I think that making it in English, I don't know what do you think about that, but I think we have like different personality languages. And I think we already discussed about that before. When you speak in French, you have maybe another like kind of humor, or and I'm not saying that you change completely, but I think it's different. But I enjoyed it, and even the theme that we discussed, it was super interesting. So I'm very excited to see how it's going to be, like the final product after the editing and everything. It was certainly very fun. It's not something that we have done before, because we're usually 2, and in that scenario we were like the guests. We were 4. It was very improvised. We didn't have like points prepared, at least from my part. So no, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much, and this also gave me, it gave me like the idea of, we can have guests. It could be something fun. we have different perspective. We all share in a way of, it was very respectful. There was even a man. So, we had this other counterpart. Yes.
Yeah.
So it was a women's world. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. What about you?
Yeah, no, I really liked it too. I loved them as people. I thought it was definitely fun. I felt very weird recording in French though. And it's so funny because my first language is French, and I feel like the status of being bilingual is such a weird status because it's kind of one where you feel like you can self-proclaim, but then you're not always sure. And so for me, for the French aspect, for a long time, I really thought that even though I was good in English and it's the language that in school I studied in the longest, I sorry, I got thrown off because like my voice cracked. Sorry about
No
that,
worry.
everyone. But yeah, I felt like I was still much better in French, and so recording in French, like I came into it and I was like, yeah, like whatever, I'm Quebecoise, I got this. But I don't know, I felt really awkward, and I don't know if you noticed, but you'll definitely tell when the episode is out, is that I would refer to English words very often. Like I realize that I can express myself a lot better in English, although sometimes I will still look for my words. And I feel like that's really at the end of the day what bilingualism should be like.
Yeah.
I feel like it should be like the fact that you struggle in more than one language. Like, because I really don't ever feel like I'm good in either. And I've talked to people about that and they feel the same way.
Yeah.
They just
I can
feel
relate.
like no matter the language, it's like you're going to be told by someone that you have an accent in it or whatever,
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, but I definitely had fun. I liked the idea of being a guest and that experience because I felt so like, I don't know, like privileged, like I was always being asked the questions, but also that came with like a big imposter syndrome because I was like, okay, like, does it really matter? Do you really care what I think? So that was definitely hard, but
Yeah.
I think it's so funny. As a white woman, I'm less and less comfortable, as it should be, but it's just like still a fact in itself that I'm less and less comfortable with taking that space,
I see.
And right now, like in the nonprofit that we both work at, there's this event coming up and it's all about gender-based analysis plus, and really more about, because that in itself is an assessment tool to make sure that your program, your organization, not even just for nonprofits, but even for profits, just that whatever you create is inclusive and just keeps in mind everyone's very different and intersectional experience. And so the organization, the team that I work with, they were like, well, you should go. And I was like, me? Really? You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to say? Like, I'm always prioritized as a white woman in these services and in these programs. And of course, I've learned a lot about GBA plus since I've been in this world, but I don't experience it, which is crazy, right? Like, it's crazy because I have this privilege, but then they're like, no, like, you should represent us. And I just feel like, so embarrassed that I had, like, I'm going to do my best and just make sure that I come with stuff that they can actually use for their GBA plus analysis. Like, I don't want to just show up to just take and watch what they're doing. But at the same time, I just really don't feel like I'm the one that should be there.
Yeah.
But we'll see, how it goes.
It's a very complex situation, or just a complex concept, we need to speak up for other people. There was a comedy, a show that was created in Quebec years ago. Okay, this is not like recent news. And they wanted to recreate a community from, I don't know from which country or what community or whatever, but they didn't choose characters from that community. So it was all like white men, and they said, I'm representing this person.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
What was that?
You mean Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
No, it was a show.
Okay.
It was like,
Okay.
I think it was, I don't.
Oh, it was like Okay.
I don't know. It was Love's.
Is it like a TV show or like a live comedy skit thing?
Exactly.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
It was like a show.
And what do you
really.
mean recreate a community? You mean like
they wanted
to represent a community?
Yeah, they wanted to tell a story and
from a community, a cultural community that was not Quebecois.
Exactly.
Right?
It was part. Yeah, I don't know if that was a whole story or they were just a second character or what. But there were like few people and they needed to be part of this show. And again, I'm not sure what show it was. But anyways, it's just an example, right? And they chose white people. Well, in that sense, in that example, I would say it's wrong because, might as well give it the opportunity to someone else. But when it comes to speaking up about some issues, and, like it's not always how can I say, it's not always, it's a lot of way to go and, just face someone and say, hey, listen me up, I'm important too. Because it takes a lot of your energy and, it's not up to you to go and say, I matter too. But when someone else comes and say, hey, let's hear what this person has to say, I mean, you're not taking the place from that person. And I think in that sense, it's very important to have not only people from, marginalized or, discriminalized communities, but also
everyone, allies that are willing to speak on their behalf. I totally understand and I agree, and that's why, like, even in this situation, I sort of laid out what my experience was in this, because I just wanted to make it clear that, like, I'm coming in as someone who has had the privilege of hearing about these stories, although I am often prioritized in, the sort of the creation of a lot of programs and stuff like that. But anyways, I think for me, it's always sort of keeping in mind that I'm going in sort of as an organization. And so that should take into account all of the marginalized groups that we work with and that we learn from. So that's a great point that you brought up for sure. But on another note, have you been, because I know that you read a lot and I know that we talk about TV shows often, have you watched or read anything good lately, whether that was like over the holidays or just in the past couple weeks?
Yeah, well, definitely during the holidays. I mean, we had this opportunity, to have a week off. So I took that time to stay at home, to watch TV, to read a book, an amazing book, from the same author that I already talked about before in the last episode. His name is Don Miguel Ruiz. And
him.
Yes, him. But all of his books are translated, and he created many of bestseller books. Yeah. So it's awesome. One of them that I really, really recommend you, Esther, and everyone here, is called The 4 Agreements. And basically, it says that we have different agreements, like interior or inside agreements that we just believe. Okay. So, for example, and I'm not going to spoil the whole book. Like, I think everyone should take that opportunity to interpret it their own way. But I'm just going to give you an example. Sometimes, and this is very relevant for what you said about the complex of the the imposter syndrome. Exactly. Because we have this like small voices in our heads that keep saying, oh no, but it doesn't matter, or oh no, you're not good enough. And we have it in different ways. Sometimes when we think about a good idea, we would not apply it because there is a small voice saying, but really, will it work? And sometimes we stay stuck in that, with that thought. And that's basically an agreement in a sense of we may self-doubt ourselves in different situations. But if we change that and we say, I don't believe in that anymore. Like, I have this small voice, but I have to be, if I consider that this is just a small voice and this is not who I am really, it's something that we can work on. And we need to be impeccable with our words. And that's like the first agreement. So every time you think about something or you want to say something, just to, not listen to that voice, but identify it as, this is not who I am. Like, this is a good idea because I thought about it. So let's just, let's go. So it gives a lot of hope, a lot of, internal patterns or internal issues that we have it and we just never face. And it gives a lot of perspective. So The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is a must.
Okay. I will note that down. I'm so not good at just reading things, I need to get, it's my New Year's resolution.
2022. Well, I have a Kindle and for me it's amazing because, it's paperless, it's easy to carry. The screen is, it's not like phones.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's amazing.
They're quite cool.
Very, very good.
But I have an iPad. I feel like that could be a Kindle.
No, it's different.
No,
no, it's very different because it doesn't have doesn't have the UV light. So
yeah,
you can read
do you
it.
Feel like you could download that?
No, I don't think so.
No? Okay.
No, because it's something from the screen itself. So, it goes
All
beyond.
Right.
Anyways, I have
I'll get a Kindle.
Oh, you should. It's like a paperback thing. So you really feel like you're reading a real book because of the parameters or whatever. It's different. It's a different screen. Anyway.
And also with a Kindle, because with a Kindle, you can only read on it, right?
Yeah.
You can't do.
Yeah.
So how a lot of people, and I say a lot of people not to out myself because I totally do this, but will read in public, just to make themselves mysterious. And so they'll want a book, right? So people notice. Well, I feel like if you have a Kindle that's only used for reading, it has the same effect. So
you can still show off.
It's perfect.
It's perfect. And something else is, I read in French and Spanish mostly, but also I have some English books. When you click on the word, you have the definition, the synonyms. You have a lot of tools to really help you understand the book. So that's something very awesome to purchase a Kindle. But anyways, that's basically what I have been reading later on. Completely. But other than that, I have watching a few TV shows here and there. We're going.
Really?
Yes. We're going to Peru in later on this month with my boyfriend. And we had this amazing idea that he wants to understand the slangs and, just to be more aware of the pronunciation in Spanish from Peru, because every country has their own accents and so on. So he doesn't want to be completely lost. So we started watching a Peruvian TV show that I loved, and they made so many seasons, over 8 years of different seasons. It's so many episodes.
80?
More.
80?
Yes. No. 8 years. 8 years. 8 years.
Okay.
But so many episodes.
I was I they were quite advanced in technology.
Imagine. Oh my God.
Okay, 8 years.
8 years, yes. No, but over, I don't know, 500 maybe. I don't know how many episodes. A lot of
episodes?
them.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I miss that.
Yes.
I just want to say I miss the healthy. I'm sure I've said it here before, and let me repeat myself, but I miss the shows that had 25 episodes. And now, like all the shows that I've watched recently, it's this 8 episode, and I'm like, what do you want me to do with that?
Yeah,
Like,
you're
like we're in a pandemic. Like, can you please make more episodes?
oh, then you should watch Grey's Anatomy.
I can't. Honestly, I can't.
No.
But yeah, do tell about this show. So you watched it when you were younger?
Exactly. In Peru, right? So I have like
with your mom or alone?
With my mom, with my grandma. It was just always in this.
Is it like a telenovela?
Yes, it's a telenovela, but Peruvian. So it's different.
Okay.
And I don't know what are the elements the elements for it to make it a telenovela. Of course, there's drama, there's cheating, there's no like aggression. But what I like about this TV show is their particularity about high society and low society. So basically, it's a very unfortunate house, very poor, with very poor people living there in an amazing neighborhood in Peru. So they inherited a house in that amazing, very privileged, neighborhood. So their neighbors are very discriminating towards this very poor family.
Okay.
So, but it's a comedy. There's a lot of like love stories. So it's not like all about the discrimination is like present all over the TV show.
Yeah.
But in so many different forms that sometimes you're not very aware of it. And when I was young, I would have some kind of prejudice. And I was like, okay, well, I get it, And I would more relate to like the rich people.
Oh.
But now that I'm watching it, many years later, and I'm like starting again this TV show so my boyfriend can understand the story from the beginning, I can see, how it can integrate people's lives, and how much we need to like, take distance from it and say like, okay, like this was a little bit too much. It was just discrimination, like pure discrimination.
Yeah.
And
it can be so subtle.
Yes.
And in your case, you were young, so I'm sure a lot of
Very
what you
subtle.
registered was unconscious,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
And now you're watching it again and you're like, what the heck?
Yes. And not only the discrimination part, that is very present. They call it out and it's very present all over the season, all over the whole, 8 years of TV show. And they're making a new season like now. So it's like still going. Okay. For those who know what I'm talking about, it's called Fondo Hay Sitio. So
what does that mean?
It's basically a very specific phrase, expression in Peru. Okay, so I don't know if all countries could understand. It means hold on. How do you say au fond? Genre au fond, disons si t'es comme dans une voiture. Like let's say you're in a bus, okay? Because that's the idea.
The back?
Yeah, like go to the back, there's place. That's all what it means, okay?
That's what it means?
Yeah.
Okay.
But what it means really is that there's always place for one more, basically. So let's say if you're making food.
Oh, okay. I thought it meant like because of like the discrimination, like your place is in the back,
It could also, it could be another interpretation, yeah. But it's how I think, because there's like a bus business.
So it's like the more the merrier.
Yeah.
Could it be that in English?
Yeah, exactly. So where there you can fit 5, there's a 6 that can fit. So basically that's the idea. And they're talking clearly about this poor house in the rich neighborhood, because you can see at first there were like 5 people living, then 6, then another family came in, and there were always, food and space, and that never was, it wasn't like a question of, no, you cannot fit here because we're top max. It's like, no, everyone can come. Whereas in the rich houses, you can see there's like 4 people and like that's it, right? It's like, okay, we're full. There's a lot of people already. So anyways, very interesting, but there's a lot of other issues that are very subtle represented. such as consentment, which is another and it's very subtle because sometimes you don't hear about it, and it's just like a perfect, beautiful like couple story, how they met and everything. But you can see it was very forced. A lot of, using...
A lot of insisting and stuff.
A lot of insisting and a lot of things like that. And it bothers when you see it with an analytical view. But if you don't, then you just think it's part of, the romance.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, and we already talked about that before, that we need to like watch television and the media and consume media with an analytical eye. And in that case, yes, you really need that analytical eye to kind of make a little stop. But anyways, other than that, another movie that I watched during the holidays is Love Hard, which is, you watch it too? A very uncommon story, from a catfish situation where a woman falls in love with a man who lives very far away, and she says, you know what, screw this, I will go all the way to meet this guy. Finally, he's not who she thinks he is, and still there's, few things that comes to play that goes beyond appearances and expectations from other, and a must watch. And finally, another movie that I wanted to talk, that I also watched during holiday season.
You've been busy.
Yes, right? It's and this movie I watched it with my dog, hoping that he will watch it. So I Googled what are the best movies to watch to make your dog watch. I was thinking, as kids, when you're like annoyed playing with them and you just want to have your alone time, your parent alone time, you can just put a movie and he'll be quiet. It wasn't the case for this one, but I watched it with him. And when I say that, I watch it alone, crying alone in my living room, because it was just an amazing movie that you definitely need to watch with or without your dog, if you have any. It's Hachi, and it's a real story from a Japanese...
Oh, it's a real story.
It's a real story from a Japanese dog that was found in a very mysterious way. And, there are some bonds that you create.
What do you mean, a Japanese dog?
It's a Japanese breed, and I think that story happened in Japan, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And yeah.
Sorry, I'll ask you at the end, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I can see you have many questions. It's like
I
do. Okay, so let me just like explain the big lines of the movie. So
please,
there's this dog that was mysteriously found. The movie happens in the US, but the real story took place in Japan. I'm pretty sure. So, like in a city in Japan. Anyways, so the movie is from in the America. It happens in the United States and with American actors, and they just recreated the real story. So,
do they mention that this is like a Japanese breed, or do they like Americanize the whole thing?
No. It's they talk about the Japanese breed, and at the end of the movie, they say, where it happened, where you can find the statue of the dog, because the dog dies at some point due to old age or whatever. But we don't see.
Romina, how could you?
You need to watch it. I'm not gonna say anything more about the dog. Whatever
happens.
Said
it doesn't die in the movie, though, right?
It doesn't die in the movie.
Okay.
Or does it? I don't know. You need to watch it.
Did you know that there's a site for that like will tell you in which movie the dog dies? Did you know about that website?
No.
It's for people that like get so emotional when like a dog dies in a movie.
Right?
So there's a website that like will tell you if the dog dies in that movie, if there's a dog in the movie.
If it's worth watching it and not
if it dies or not. Yeah, because people just like they can't handle it.
Yeah. Totally. I
So
can
that
relate.
community might come after you after
Wow.
what you just told us.
Oh my God. Well, I will take back my the dog doesn't die.
Yeah.
You need to watch it. That's all I need to say.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's, you know how sometimes animals can create very strong bonds with humans. So they talk about this very strong bond between a man and a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And the bond is just so strong. The dog is so loyal that even if something happens to the master, to the human, the dog is still loyal to the idea of the human. And everyone's respectful of the dog's decision. So everyone knows him. Everyone, you know, they try to help as much as they can, but they respect the dog's wishes. And I think that's so interesting to see. You know, it's in another context or in another movie or whatever, you could say that dogs, they're not always like they don't always respect their decisions or choices. So it's not always consentful about the dog, you know, in so many different ways. It's like, no, eat, and then, you know, you put the mouth, you open the mouth of the dog, you put the food or whatever. So, you know, if you do that to a human being, it's not being very consentful. But in this movie particularly, I don't know if I watch any other movie that is so respectful about what the dog chooses. You know, the dog wants to escape. They're like, no, let him be. Like, he knows. So at that point, it's just incredible. The movie is very, very, like, it catches your emotions. It's very, it's so much of that, you know? A must watch. And yeah, at the end, it's very moving. So just, you know, have a small box of Kleenex next to you. That's all what I'm going to say, because it's very emotional, but it's amazing. So
is this the same like breed of dogs? Is this like a Shiba, like as like the Bitcoin, not the Bitcoin, but the crypto coin?
Shiba Inu?
Is that it?
It looks like, but it's not the Shiba Inu. It's like a cousin breed or something like that. Okay. But yeah, Shiba Inu, it's Japanese too. And they have some similarities, but
okay.
But yeah, those were my recommendations for you guys and you, Esther.
So cute.
And you, have you watched or read anything good lately?
I've been reading a really awesome book, actually. I mean, it's from one of my friends. He's the author of it. His name is Jakub Ferencik, and I actually asked him for the correct pronunciation of his name before this episode. This is the way that he pronounces it in English, so I hope that I said it right. It's mostly for his last name. And so, yeah, it's called Beyond Reason, Why We Fail to Understand Each Other. It's really the type of book that, as I'm reading it, and I'm still sort of at the beginning, but it's the book where, like, you want to just copy paste the whole thing because just highlighting a couple little words or sentences would not be enough. And so, like, I'm holding on to every word, and it's just like, it's been really, really a cool experience to get to read it and to get to almost be inside his head. Right. And what I find really special, and this is really personal, is that we grew up in the same faith. And so a lot of these sort of coming to terms with Christianity and philosophy and stuff like that is just so relatable for me in a lot of ways. So it's an amazing book. He actually sent us a copy to Romina and I, and we'll definitely talk about it, take an episode to really unpack it, because I think it's worth it. I think it brings up a lot of themes that are just super relevant to what we talk about and to our podcast. So that's what I've been reading lately. Yes. And I'm really liking it, and definitely will tell you more about that in the episodes to come.
Cannot wait!
And for what I've been watching, I also watched Love Hard. As you mentioned, I liked it. Especially when it comes to Christmas, I'm usually the one that can put all of her like movie cinema critique sense away and just enjoy like a really cheesy Hallmark movie. But this year I found it really difficult for the first time. Like I am usually there for all like the Princess Switch and like, you know, any of those really like poorly written, poorly acted films.
Yeah.
And I watched Christmas in a Castle, I think is what it's called. Like, of course, like it's a typical title, I think, for that genre of movie. But it was like for the first time, it felt very white to me. Like it felt, and so I sort of did a little thing afterwards and I looked up Christmas movies on Netflix, and it's crazy how white this is. And I'm not saying anything new here. Like, I think it's been something that's been brought up, but it's like, it's really ridiculous, like how whitewashed these Christmas movies are. And it made me really, like, it turned me off of it. And I was like, yeah, like I'm just like not up for it anymore.
Oh, wow.
So that extent, yeah, like I think, yeah. And so I think like, yeah, there's a couple that I enjoyed, but yeah, I think mostly like I was just like, yeah, this is like, no.
Oh, but can you give us an example? Now I'm super curious.
Well, like I said, like Christmas in a Castle is just, it's not only is it always the same storyline, and, you know, when it comes to just like dating and stuff and just the typical story, but it's also like just white people.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And it's crazy because it takes like as a white person, it takes a long time, too long for us to realize that like this is not normal, because I feel like we're so used to the media looking like we look,
right,
that we're just used to it being that way.
Yeah.
And so even another one which like isn't even about just people being white, but they all are once again, but The Holiday, I rewatched with a friend over the break, and I grew up on like watching really like just not cringy but typical rom-coms, because my mom was like a huge fan. Yeah. So like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, When Harry Met Sally, all of those really like just the classics.
Right.
I grew up watching them. And again, as you said, like we form an understanding of what romance is supposed to be and what it's supposed to look like. And in The Holiday, there's actually a really not iconic, but a sentence that stood out to me. And it's Jude Law that says it. And I don't know if you've seen the movie The Holiday.
I don't think so.
No? Basically, the story is that these two women are each experiencing hardships in their lives. One woman lives in England and the other one lives in the United States. And they both realize that they want to go away for the holiday season, and so they go on this website where you can switch homes.
Oh, okay.
And so the one person would go to England in the person's home, and then the other one would do the same. So they do that, and so they each get to live in each other's homes and sort of not in each other's lives, but of course, you know, like for example, this one woman who goes to England, she meets the other woman's brother because he comes to her door and thinking that he's going to see his sister, but he sees this woman and she's like, yeah, we did this exchange, you know, now I'm living at your sister's place for a couple weeks. And so of course they start dating as these things go.
Right.
And one of the nights they go out together, they go out to a pub and they have quite a lot to drink. Is it a pub or do they drink at her place? I don't remember. But anyways, they both drink quite a lot. And she wakes up the next morning and he's still over. And so she says, you know, did we hook up, you know? And just the fact that like she asked in a way that was so normal, as if it would have been normal for them to hook up if she couldn't even remember it. So she asks that, and then he's like, no, like call me old fashioned, but I like for like women that I hook up with to be conscious when I do it, you know?
Wow.
And so it was just like such a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I was younger, I was like,
Oh,
wow,
romantic
what
gentleman.
a prince.
Yeah.
But now I was just like, okay.
Right.
And it's just like so uncomfortable, you know? So yeah, that was the one like thing that I was like, oh, okay, like maybe these are a bit like, I think I've outgrown these movies, you know?
And it's very subtle. It's extremely subtle. You know, there's no like, like force, there's no like aggression. It's just so subtle you could almost not hear it, right? And you would be like,
and it's worse because in this case it's brought up as being positive.
Exactly.
You know? Like he's saying this as if he's like a freaking like hero of romance. Like, no, like call me old fashioned, like I'm better than like most men, like I actually like
he's a prize.
Like good job.
Exactly.
Like, congrats,
he doesn't represent the normality. He represents the extraordinary. Like, wow.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, that was like kind of a bit like.
And we talk about that, remember, in the other podcast, you know, very lightly and very.
Oh yeah, about like very low standards.
Exactly. And one of the standards, you know, that I don't know who said it or what, is to respect other people. And, you know, are we at that point, you know, expecting the worst on men? Is that the normal? So anyways, for sure, questions that...
What Romina is referring to is when we recorded the episode with Les Podcasts Impromptus over the weekend, we won't reveal the theme yet. I want them to do that. But we did talk briefly about the fact that as cisgendered heterosexual women dating cisgendered heterosexual men, oftentimes we'll be super impressed if they're like feminist and super like, you know, inclusive of LGBTQ and stuff like that. And even in my case, like being aware of how like that's the norm, I'll still be like, oh, like, you know, like that's really like awesome. But it's like, yeah, you know, like congrats. But at the same time, I feel like it is the norm, but like ideally it's the norm. And since it's not right now, I still am okay. And I think that you do this with your boyfriend as well, is that I will always celebrate when, because you mentioned that your boyfriend will point out, like even in that Peruvian show.
Exactly, yes.
He's been the one pointing out, you know, maybe there's something
it's
a little bit
forced.
Here.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I agree with the idea that I will always say like, hey, it's really cool that you notice that, you know?
Yeah.
And because sometimes it's things that won't even stand out to me as much. And so I kind of agree with the whole, oh, well, let's recognize it.
Exactly. Recognize.
But also let's work to move towards it being a norm, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So deconstructing the norm of all men are, you know, bad and they will all, you know, take advantage or on women's bodies, and just deconstruct that idea and recreate a new norm. And like you said, pointing out this small recognitions is to say, okay, good. Like, I'm glad, I'm super proud when he says, that's very, you know, wrong. That's wrong. That, you know, that was a little bit forced, or she didn't look very consentful. And I'm like, look at you. And the same comes to the movie Love Hard. And I'm just going to make a small mention because there's a very, you know, in music for Christmas, which is Maybe It's Cold Outside. And I think we all know about it. And you know,
maybe not, though. Do you want to like tell people what the issue has been in recent years? Because I've talked to people who had not heard about what's going on with that song.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, sure. So basically that song, Baby It's Cold Outside, is like a discussion of a man and a woman. And I mean, I don't know if there's any video clip or what, but how I imagine it is that they're in a living room, and at some point the woman is like, okay, well, I'm going now. Like, my mom's gonna be worried. It's getting late. And yeah. And the men, which we think they're dating, at least that's like the impression I have. And again, I'm talking about the song, right? Is the men kind of forcing her or insisting for her to stay. And the argument is, baby, it's cold outside. So she says, oh, give me the coat. And he's like, oh, but baby, it's cold outside. And again, she's like, no, I need to go. My mom is worried. My brother will ask questions. And she's like trying to escape. At least that's how I see it. And it's a dialogue. And again, he says, insisting, no, but it's cold. You're going to freeze out there. And it's just, a very forced situation where they don't seem to agree. And then there's introduction of, oh, have a sip of this drink, or try the cigarette, the smoke, and she takes.
And basically more like, also what I meant was in regards to why it became controversial. Like, I think the song is well known, but I think people don't know that it has been an issue in the past years, because if you know the song and it's very well known, you listen to the lyrics and you're like, this does not seem consentful. It's quite odd what, they're bringing up, what they're talking about, what the man is pushing on the woman. And so it has become an issue, and a lot of people have spoken out against it. I know Miley Cyrus came up with her own version. Oh, yeah. And or did she come up? I think no, she actually came up with her own version of Santa Baby, which was a lot more focused on like women's rights and stuff like that. But I believe that she spoke out against this song, and other people did. And so a lot of people, including myself, don't listen to that song anymore because it's super uncomfortable, Yeah. But there has been a backlash towards it. I know even like from my parents, like who were like, well, like, it's
a
just
classic.
A song, stuff like that. And so a similar thing happened to you too, right?
Yes. Well, I had this discussion with my boyfriend during the Christmas, because it's such a Christmas song, it's cold outside and here we're freezing, and it's just...
Yeah, it comes up a lot on the radio.
And it's like very classic, during Christmas especially. Again, I don't know how old that song is, but I mean, it's been there for years and years. Anyways, so when I told him about that, and I'm like, I don't like that song a lot. It's not very consentful. And he was kind of disagreeing with me. And I think that the reason maybe why he wasn't, so he couldn't relate with that song is because he was never in a situation like that. But again, you don't need to experience it to just be an ally, right? So anyways, we were just disagreeing, but in my mind, it's just so clear that the girl was uncomfortable. And I don't know if it's because of my own experience or what, but I've already been in a situation where, I don't want to really stay. And even though, because that's another argument of, you could just take your, put your puts on, put your coat on and just leave. And yes, I could definitely do that. But there is a feeling of, I want to go, but I'm escaped. I'm trapped.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Romina, because you felt like that as a woman in like the 21st century. But when that song was written, and again, we'd have to look up the year, but you can tell that it was a time where women, like, she would have had to be accompanied by him to get back home and stuff like that, right? So like that feeling of being trapped and of relying on a man who you need to get home but who is insisting on you to stay was probably even stronger and even worse.
Exactly. Yes. And something that I love about that movie, Love Hard, is that they take that song and they recreate their own version where the guy is saying, you can just go. And, it makes...
very understanding, very consentful.
Exactly. And it makes so much sense. And then it changes the whole, idea of her feeling trapped. Just because instead of saying, no, but don't go, it's cold outside. Because he doesn't say don't go. He just says, it's cold outside. Don't go. But when he changes that phrase to, but you can just go there, it's, I don't know, it changes the whole aspect of that song. And I'm very glad that they talk about it in that movie. And that's one thing that I love about it. But just to make another point, about this movie, and I know you were talking about your favorite movies that you watch over the holidays, but something else that we can find in the media is the definition of beauty. And like you said, we used to watch a lot of movies that are very like white actors, white people. So that's why, white people were, and again, I'm not sure to what extent, and I'm sure there are studies about it, but the lack of representation of other like skin colors, cultures, and so on, defines a little bit of what we're expecting to see, how the woman falls in love with the beautiful white man, or vice versa. The man, he falls in love with this beautiful actress or beautiful character, whatever. And again, it's possible because even though the woman is poor, even though the man is this, or they have sickness or whatever this scenario is, they fall in love at some point. And they're good looking, so it just makes sense that because you're good looking, you're kind-hearted and you're nice. And this has been going for years and years. And another good point about this movie, Love Hard, is that it goes beyond appearances, and it kind of redefines beauty, not only in external beauty, but as in the personality, how important it is, how much it plays a role to be empathic, to be to be a good person, and that's more important than just being good looking.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't know if that movie does it that well. And my hesitancy to speak on that is because I have seen in recent media, like in Emily in Paris season 2 and season 1, Asian characters are not always well casted or well written. So I really don't know what the community feels about the representation in that movie. I agree that it has a better representation than most typical Hallmark holiday movies, but it still sort of gives off the idea that she has to be tricked in order to like someone that's not conventionally attractive. And catfishing is really wrong. It speaks about consent in a lot of ways. And so yeah, it's hard for me. It's harder for me to see it in that way. Although I do think that a lot of aspects of this movie did work well. I think we still have ways to work when it comes to that, for sure.
I agree with you. It's true. She was trapped in a way.
Yeah. But no, it's nice. I mean, they definitely it's a genre of movie that needs to be like really reformed, and definitely. Yeah. But like recently, I think ever since I got back from BC, we've been watching really good shows. One of them was thanks to you. It was called Unbelievable, and I think it was a show that was quite big maybe over the summer. I don't know when, but I know that it was like when it came out originally on Netflix, it was really popular. And
it's been a few years now, I think.
A few years?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're just really late. But I watched it with my boyfriend, and it is a limited series based on true events, is what I read at the beginning of the show, about sexual assault and what that looks like in the system. What that looks like when you really bring it into the police system and the law system, whatever. Like, I know that's not the right wording, but anyways, it's really someone's very personal experience that you sort of get a look into with sexual assault and her journey through that in parallel with other victims' journeys, because this ended up being a serial rapist. I don't know if we'll bleep that out because I know that it's very sensitive, but so I quite enjoyed it. just because I already knew that the system was so broken. And I think that it's a type of thing that you need to be reminded 100 times before people actually start to understand it. I was having this conversation with someone in my family this year about the system, and I unfortunately had people know of people that went through this really broken system. And I was talking to them and I was saying, yeah, like it's so hard, and they make it impossible for victims to not only get, because you can never get, I don't think, what you need out of this, which is for it to have never happened in the first place. But just the whole process is so frustrating. And I was saying that to that person, and they were male, and so they were like, oh really, I thought it was better now with everything that happened. And I was like, yeah, because you're a guy. Like
it's sad, but that's what it is. Yes.
Yeah, it's still like so hard. So I watched that, and it was similar in some ways to Maid, which is another show. Like my boyfriend and I, we binged these two shows in a week, and it's funny because we almost had a little like argument because these shows, they're not easy to watch.
No.
And I can't imagine if you relate to them personally. I am lucky enough that I don't, but they're still very hard to watch. And so my boyfriend, he found them quite difficult to get into just because it was really hard. Unbelievable starts like quite intensely. And I almost got mad at him because I was like, yeah, but like, you're not as, not that like it can't, like this is it's a gender-based issue. It affects women more, but that does not mean that it does not affect men or non-binary peoples. Like it affects everyone, but he's just less at risk. And so I was mad. I was like, no, like you're watching it, like you have to know about this, like stuff like that. And I don't know if I was right to get upset or not, but it's really the types of shows that brings up these emotions, I find. 100%, and I think that's important. Like for my mom, and I totally respect her choice to want to watch, TV to relax. So she'll watch these shows that are very much like fiction, and she doesn't like when it's too heavy or too real life. But I'm like, and I've had these conversations with her where I'm like, yeah, but it's
the reality
that you do.
Yes,
it's important because this happens and it's hard to watch, but imagine actually going through it, right? And I'm not saying everyone needs to watch it, especially for survivors, but for people that might not have been affected on a personal note, I feel like it's really important to keep reminding ourselves how broken it is, so that we are equipped with the knowledge to bring it up when it comes up, and to have the proper arguments, and at least to have a look into what that's like. So those two shows are great. Maid is also based on a book, which the author of it actually based her book on her experience. She was homeless as a single mom, and it's really her experience navigating the system of when you're trying to find affordable housing and when you're trying to have affordable childcare and all that. So both of them I found were really important when it comes to having a look inside those systems that make it so hard for people to navigate and to have access to. And they claim that they're in place for survivors and to empower you. But man, it's like they try to discourage you. So great shows, really well casted and written.
Amazing.
Quite enjoyed them, but hard to watch, but still super important too. So
I think it's important to mention that it's hard to watch. As you said, I think you and I, we have this this will to understand better, and to point out or identify what are the let's say issues, or how we can better adapt situations. Because yes, in a sense the system is broken, and I'm talking about Unbelievable. I haven't watched Maid yet,
yeah,
but it's easy to say the system is broken and just be discouraged by that and say, okay, that's it. Because in Unbelievable, yes, the system is broken and you can see very clearly, but it's also a reminder of, how humans are part of the system too. And some humans, some, workers in the system that are, that are shown in the TV show, they lack a lot of humanity, a lot of empathy, a lot of just being there and, be able to like listen up a victim who is courageous enough to speak up and, with the little energy that she has left to find that force and be able to,
to say it.
To tell the story. I don't
want to swear, but to say it like freaking 5 times.
Yes.
That she has to repeat her story when it just happened and like you couldn't take notes or like you couldn't ask your buddy to be there because then she has to tell both people individually. I was like swearing at my screen.
Oh,
like, are you kidding me? Like,
me too. So frustrating for so many things that they just, they just stop there. It's just like, why can this go further? You already have all the information, and like you said, it's very hard to watch, and sometimes people, they don't find like the purpose, or they don't want to watch that kind of stuff because they can't relate, or because they think it's just a waste of time. They want to watch something more fun or entertainment or entertaining, but again, is not because you're not watching, not because you're not experiencing it, not because you don't see it personally, that it doesn't exist. And to be better humans, we need to be better listeners. So that was my point on those 2 TV shows. But great job, Esther, to find the time to, talk about these and even convince people around you how important it is. I like to mention that to my peers, and when I watch it too, it was, but with that same, frustration, we can make something better, and we can, make this more accessible to just show more humanity towards.
Yeah, and you're so right. And like, I know sometimes when we say like, because I've been that person when I hear someone say, you just like, now you learn to do better and all that. And I was like, yeah, right. Like, what are you going to do? But just as an example, after watching those shows, my boyfriend was like, hey, we should volunteer in like a shelter for like, gender-based violence or affordable housing or all that. And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And so just thoughts like that that come from TV shows and we know to be true and to be very similar in our communities can spark that kind of action. So it's not just always saying, like, oh, great, like we'll do better, but it actually does spark those ideas. So I thought that was quite cool. And I think that encouraged me to continue to listen and to take the time to watch these stories, which are based on real life, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. But I'm glad that there's hope and that it created, something inside your boyfriend and, inspired around him to, hey, let's do something. We can do something. So that's amazing. And hopefully this episode also will find that hope inside you, listeners, to try to do something better around you. Why not? It's 2022. Let's do something different. Let's be better humans.
Yeah.
And
if we pivot into a much more how can I say it?
Let's be better external humans and interior humans. Let's talk about skin.
Yeah. Something much more I'm struggling so much. Superficial. There we go. We got it. Oh my gosh, that was so much harder than it needed to be. Yeah, I want to pivot into something more superficial, because I love skincare. It's something that is very much part of my life. I don't know, like I was actually wondering this because I know that we've talked about this briefly before, and you told me that, your interest in skincare, or at least your skincare routine, is very limited. And I kind of always wondered if you have to have had like some sort of acne or, any sort of skin problems to
Okay.
be into skincare, or if it's just something that, it doesn't matter. Like you could have had clear skin or not your whole life and be into it. Like, did you struggle with any sort of skin issues or concerns when you were younger? Or did you always have perfect skin, you little...
I was being perfect. No, I'm kidding. But definitely, I would consider myself lucky. I never struggle with acne or anything like that. I don't know if it's because I didn't have, let's say, the chance to eat as much as sweet or greasy stuff due to my health condition, or if simply, it was a question of genes or I don't know what. But I never struggled. I had few pimples here and there sometimes due to my periods or anything, but never enough like to find specific treatments for acne or anything like that. I always been very minimalistic. And even with makeup, I mean, I don't put makeup everywhere. And maybe that's because of my mom. My mom, she never used white makeup too, and she's very proud to say it. But yeah, I would say that in my case, I've been interested about skincare in a more like natural, minimalistic way.
Okay.
So I like products like Lush and stuff like that are, from like more from natural elements. Ingredients, yes, exactly. But some things that I do sometimes when, I'm out, let's say I'm sleeping over, or I just forgot somewhere to buy more makeup, or not makeup, sorry, but my skincare products, is I use a coconut oil, or like, let's say to remove my makeup, or something I love to do, and I don't know how great it is, but I found on YouTube and platforms like that, is to use like Greek yogurt without any flavor, which I almost always have. Esther's looking at me like, what? I always have in my fridge. Okay. And I put a little bit of honey, so I know it sounds delicious. Okay. And I just, like clean my face with that. And apparently it's great. I feel great. I feel refreshed. Okay. Or strawberries, I don't always have, but sometimes it's not a mask. It's just, to clean myself. Something that I used to do is that I would take like sugar, like legit sugar, with water, so it will dissolve. And that's like what is
scrub?
Exactly, like a scrub. But I stopped doing that just because I don't know how well it is. I know the particles are so small, sometimes they can irritate your skin. I haven't experienced that, but I just stopped doing that. So very, like minimalistic, natural.
Very DIY.
Yeah, DIY for sure. But what about you? Yeah. I know you're a big fan, but what are like the important elements to like be careful when choosing a great skincare product?
Well, I think I used to consider skincare as like a one size fits all. And like you were mentioning the DIY ingredients, and I think with DIY, the only thing to be careful is just how your skin reacts. Yeah. But as you said, like you felt great, it was working for you, like our skin types and just our skin in general is so different from each other, that it's really hard to say, well, you should use these products because they work well for me or whatever. Yeah. But I've, since the pandemic, I've definitely seen more people experience with skincare. And I think it was a mix of two things, because I think it was the pandemic. So people had more time to do a full skincare routine.
Yeah.
But I also think it's because of brands like the Inky List or the Ordinary that came out. And they came out with especially for the Inky List, but they came out with ingredients that used to cost a lot of money.
Okay.
Like retinol or different types of acids, right? And so they started putting out these products that were only a couple bucks, whereas other brands were selling them for, almost hundreds of dollars. And so I think this encouraged people to say, hey, I'm going to experiment with skincare because I'm only going to lose a couple bucks, whereas you wouldn't experiment with a product that's like $80 plus dollars, right?
They're so expensive.
I think those two things combined made it so that people got more into skincare. I got into skincare because when I was younger, this was like in my late teens, I had never had acne and I started having acne. I don't know why. It's definitely a hormonal thing, but I was also working at Sephora in those years. And I think because we were expected to wear a lot of makeup when we were at Sephora.
Yeah.
Like they told you like you have to wear
It's
a minimum
mandatory.
mandatory like foundation and eyeshadow and eyebrow makeup and all that. And that was very heavy for me who had never worn foundation. Well, I wore it sometimes in high school, but I hated the feeling on my skin. So I got into skincare because just my skin felt so gross, and I was at Sephora, so I got all these products for free and I got to start really experimenting with skincare, and I fell in love with it. But it's crazy how much it's a learning journey as long as you don't understand the chemistry and the ingredients of it, because if you don't understand that, you're always gonna think that something is really good, and then you find out that it's not, because you need to be able to learn how to truly in its matter form that you need to be able to tell if it's good or not, So I'm not saying that I can do that, but I'm definitely better at it. And so I think that that's one of the things I learned during the pandemic, was to learn more how to read ingredients on a label.
Very
and that
important.
can transfer into, shampoos, hair products, just different things that you're putting on your skin or near your skin. That's important to know what's in there, and we're understanding more and more. And I think that's a huge part of consumer empowerment, if you will, is to be able to do that, because it's important,
Interesting. Yes, definitely. And as you said, some things that we don't have access either because we don't have time or we just don't have the information, we don't know what to read or what to look into it.
Yeah.
Because the ingredients, when you read it, I mean, you see so many like weird words.
Yeah.
If it would say like strawberry yogurt, well, I would say like, okay, I understand those ingredients, but it doesn't. It's like
you'd be like, wow, this is my skincare routine.
Right?
Perfect.
It only costs $30, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yes, and the problem with that is that you try it once, you try it twice, you try it for a week. Sometimes the reactions, they don't come right away, but it's a long-term damage. And again, this is all about accessibility and how well you know how much how much desire you're willing to to learn about it and to just take care of yourself with different things.
Yeah.
But do you have any example to what to use or any like recommendation for our listeners?
Well, recommendations. I mean, in regards to products, and again, like this is personal, so it's hard, but
for sure.
I quite enjoy the Inky List. I think I was that person that would buy the $200 serum thinking that it was gonna make me look like Kendall Jenner overnight, so the Inky List and brands like that really put a lot of efforts into unlearning those types of ideas that we had, and skincare and makeup is so much about marketing, and even when we know that, we still buy into it. You know, packaging for us, it's like it's so important. It's a game.
It's
It's
like the
very
book's
visual.
cover.
It's an experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love what the Inculus did, and I think that I tried almost all the Ordinary's products. For me, I think that, and a lot of people say that in the skincare community, whether that's on TikTok or YouTube, that the Inculus has better formulations than the Ordinary. And I never knew what that meant. But haven't tried both of them, I understand what they mean just by the feeling of how it feels on my skin and when applying it. I think that they use and they work with very similar ingredients, but I think that in regards to the feeling and especially how you can pair it with other things, because personally for me, when I was using the Ordinary, I would always in the day finish with a sunscreen, because I'm a big advocate for sunscreen every day, no matter if you stay inside.
Yeah.
My skincare would pill, which means like it would roll, and so that means that it was reacting chemically, I believe, with some of the Ordinary's ingredients, or maybe the way that it was formulated, and I haven't found that with the Inculus. So that's sort of, you know, it's been a positive for me, certainly. But I think my 3 other learnings of maybe 2021 or maybe the entire pandemic was, so the first learning, so I have 4. The first learning was how to read ingredients better. I mean, I'm not perfect, but at least better to start to understand. The second one is that vitamin C is not for everyone, because I used to be obsessed with vitamin C. I got one off of Micaela, which is an awesome website that we could share. Actually, it's a website of a store in Alberta, I think, I think it's in Alberta, but it sells only K-beauty products, and it's super affordable, but you're encouraging a Canadian store. It's really cool, and they have a lot of promos and stuff. So awesome. I love that store. I love that it's not like Amazon or anything, but that you can still have access to K-beauty, which is like has been a huge trend in the last couple of years. But I got a vitamin C. It was super high in vitamin C. And I tried it, and I started having a lot of blackheads, and I didn't understand. I didn't even make the connection at first, but I went to my esthetician, and she was like, no, stop. And she was like, I actually had the same thing where I really wanted to use vitamin C, and I started like having blackheads. So it's good not for everyone. And I did not know that. I thought that you could just, you know, like vitamin C is a really popular ingredient. It's in a lot of products. So I thought just anyone could.
So it fits for all.
I never thought it would do that. Yeah. So that's my other learning. And then my third one is to chill with the gua sha. I don't know if you know what a gua sha is. So it is a traditional Chinese skincare method, and it's basically basically what it is a facial lymphatic drainage massage. So what you'll do is, you know what I mean?
The roll?
Yeah, you can do it with a roll or with like a gua sha, which is like the stone that you would use to do that. And you can even do it with your fingers. Like you don't even have to buy anything. But I was always the person with skincare where if it doesn't burn or pull, it's not working. And so with this like technique of massaging, I would go in and just like tug at my skin, and I thought that I was creating these beautiful cheekbones, you know, but it's not good. Like it's not, you're not supposed to do that. And I think with skincare, it's like the gentler you are, whether that's with like an active product or with something that you're doing mechanically, you have to be as gentle as possible. So that's a very good learning that I'm happy I learned, because I really needed to chill. And my last one Esther, is my highlight. Yeah, exactly. No, for real. But the last one is my highlight. And it's something that I never thought I would do to my skin because I was so scared. And one of my friends actually let me do it on her skin, and she like broke out for like weeks. Like it really didn't work for her. So like, again, a reminder that whatever I say or whatever anyone says in the skincare world, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you.
Yeah,
like,
for
our
sure.
Skin are very different, but this is called dermaplaning, and I don't know if you've ever heard of that technique.
No.
So basically, dermaplaning is, and I did pull up the definition, it's a procedure that exfoliates your skin and gets rid of dirt and vellus hair. And you use a scalpel or a small razor to do it. So it's really the technique of shaving your face.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I was so scared to do this.
You did it with what? With a scalpel?
Yeah, with a little scalpel razor, and I got them off of Amazon, and it works super well. I'm obsessed with it. I do it every month now, but I did it on my friend, and it really didn't work for her. Like, she has very sensitive skin, and I think just the fact that it was like shaving, it really irritated her skin. But I had like a lot of concerns about like, well, oh my God, is my hair gonna grow back? Am I gonna be like a werewolf? You know, like all the typical concerns when you shave anyway.
Yes.
And no, like it's not. It's just like the way that you do it with the type of razor that you do it. It doesn't grow back. Like, of course, it grows back like normal. Like we all have a little bit of peach fuzz on our skin,
right?
But it doesn't grow back in a way that like is obvious or whatever. But it makes it so that it's not only like an exfoliation, but it makes it so that your products penetrate a lot better. My skin is just so glowy and more toned, and just like I've loved doing it. So
wow, definitely interesting.
One thing I recommend is just like if you have like a boyfriend, girlfriend, or partner, just try it on them. Like I try everything on my boyfriend, and then if it's okay, I do it on myself.
I'll take your advice, Esther. Yeah. Kevin, watch out.
Guinea pig. Yeah.
Yes, watch out. You're my next.
But one trend, Romina, that we could try together, and like I've been wanting to try this trend because it's been like known for a while now, but it's been blowing up lately. It's called slugging.
Okay. What is that?
And what it is I don't know, like, because I've tried to look into this and the information has not like always been obvious. Mm-hmm. But I think from what I understand is that you would do your skincare routine, and then at night after you've put your products, you put on petroleum jelly. So whether that be Vaseline, Aquaphor, whatever, all over your face. And from what I understood is it traps in moisture. Okay. So your face and your skin, when you sleep, it doesn't lose like moisture as much. And so your skin is more plump. It stays hydrated and stuff. And like I was less scared of shaving my face than putting Vaseline on it, because just like the texture, like I'm very particular about what goes on my skin, and I just feel like this would destroy it. But I've heard amazing testimonials about this thing, so maybe we should try it and give everyone an update next episode.
Sure, I would love to hydrate myself during night. For me, that's not a problem. But please don't ask me about the small razor. That one is very scary.
That one is a problem for you?
That one is a problem for me. But the slugging, sure, why not?
Yeah, so maybe we'll give that a try.
Yeah, why not? But definitely something to try on. And we can see how many businesses, skincare products, or any other businesses have, changed their way to do, or just, creating another brand or so to make it more accessible. So just, you can see different alternatives of how a lot of companies have adapted to the pandemic, or not, just to like the way of living. So with that, I like to just quickly present or introduce or give you a small sneak peek on our next episode, that we will talk about more side hustles.
Yeah.
And Esther found a very, very funny, and I mean, I had to read it multiple times to be like, did I read this right? To really understand what I was reading. But there's a headline on a blog, and Esther, if you want to share with everyone.
Yeah, sure. So basically, it's also part of a new format that we're exploring
Yeah.
for the podcast because we used to end with an expression in Castellano. I haven't
Castellano.
said it. Castellano. I haven't said it in a while, so I apologize. But yeah,
good.
we used to bring in that aspect of Romina's culture, and that was really awesome. And for this season, we'd love to explore because we do talk about social and cultural themes and events and subjects as well as pop culture. So we would love to end on a sort of headline note.
Yep.
And maybe it will always foreshadow our next episode or not, but in this case it does. And this is a headline that my boyfriend shared with me. He came across this because I am a huge 90 Day Fiancé fan, as problematic as the show is. And he shared this headline with me, and it goes, 90 Day Fiancé star hospitalized after selling farts in a jar.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? I mean, I read it when Esther shared it with me. I was like, did I read this right? Like, what is this? Farts in a jar? What?
Yeah.
So I did my little research because I had the blog, and I mean, we'll be happy to share with you guys so you can also, like try to understand what is this. But
and it's so much more than we think. I cannot wait, Romina, to talk about this next episode because
we will.
You really dived into this rabbit hole, and what you found was really interesting.
And it makes sense.
I'm excited to talk about it next episode.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just amazing to see how people get creative to just, try to make it. So they just hustle. And that was very interesting. So I'm very excited for the next episode. But just to give a small sneak peek, like I said, on what's coming on the next episode, I want to finish up this episode with the wisdom words from this fartpreneur. So the person who, this blog was inspired to. And her name is Stephanie Maro. So she is the 90 Day Fiancé star who is selling her farts in a jar. Anyways, so it goes like this. She says, for as long as I can remember, it has been assumed that girls don't poop and girls most certainly don't fart. Today, we are changing the narrative on what women can and can't do, and on what women should and shouldn't do. Fart jars are all about taking ownership of your body, your inner worth, with an added whiff of creative genius, making a statement and as impact in anything you set your mind to. Fart jars are a symbol of feminine power, hope, joy, and lightheartedness in even the darkest time. Keep calm, but especially, and this goes for you, Esther, fart on.
Oh my God.
So, anyways, I'm excited.
I don't know how to feel about this. Honestly, just hearing the word fart makes me it makes me gag. I hate that. It's not even the thing of women don't do that. It just makes me so queasy, and I'm I'm imagining this business and the product, and I'm barf. I respect the hustle, get it, but oh my gosh, it just makes me really unwell, this whole idea.
But we'll talk more about that on the next episode, so don't barf just yet.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for listening in. And please join us if you want to get inspired. If you've been looking for your next side hustle, we have a couple examples and ideas in our next episode. So please feel free to tune in.